So what made you want to be a lawyer?
I actually wanted to be a sports writer first. And I applied for a job with the New York Times, but several newspapers in New York had just folded, and these experienced sports writers were trying to get new jobs. And I actually interviewed with the sports editor of the New York Times, and then there's a phone call, and someone said, and someone yelled, "There's a guy who wants to know what the world record is for the long jump." And I said, "I know that." During the interview, I said, "I know that, 26 feet by Jesse Owens." And I figured that's going to get me the job. It didn't. I didn't get anything. And they just said, "Well, we can't use you," and that was the end of it.
So then why law as a backup as opposed to something else?
Well, my parents wanted me to be a doctor, naturally, and I just couldn't stand the sight of blood, and I couldn't do it. And so, can't be a doctor, the next thing is to be a lawyer. So that's how I wound up being a lawyer.
So as you now, like you're after retiring, you probably look back and reflect on your career. What do you think is your biggest professional accomplishment?
Well, I'd have to say the pre-Miranda stuff had the biggest impact. It's hard to believe. I mean, we had over 1,000 police officers attend a conference here right after Miranda. They were completely confused. They didn't know what to do. They haven't done a very good job of figuring out what to do, unfortunately. But there were over 1,000 of them attending these conferences here. And it was just all over the country. The New York Times was running, I was involved in different conferences, and for weeks, not just a few days, for weeks, the New York Times would have a page-one story about what we said at the latest conference, and either what I said or somebody else said. So it was just unbelievable how everybody was just overwhelmed by Miranda and by the war in court. And so I would say that, I know that was 50 years ago. It was like someone telling me once that in the 1990s, that the best thing I ever wrote was on the right to counsel, which I wrote in 1962, and I didn't know how to react. I said, "Well, I've written a lot of things since then, but I didn't get any reactions." But that was big stuff. Yeah.
Well, you've also, had a very large impact on your students, right? Countless public defenders around the country, yours truly included, hear your voice, right, in the back of their minds.
I reread, before I came in here today, I reread your farewell in 2004 when I retired. And you mentioned that in your, at the end of your article, of your tribute, if you want to say it that way, And I meant it, I really meant it, and I'm glad that people have done this, because I did it myself, because and who knows how important it was.
What did you hope your students would get out of your classes?
The passion was just something I hadn't planned. It really wasn't. I took the stuff very seriously, especially criminal law, and I just couldn't. I wanted to get people focused. I wanted to get them worked up, and I considered it this very important stuff, and I really didn't fully realize, to put it mildly, how I was going over. I mean, I try to be funny, but obviously it was more than that.
Now is your opportunity to dispel the long rumor that has percolated about your breaking a student's glasses in class with a casebook one day. Can you tell us what really happened?
Well, yeah, I'll tell you what really happened, but first, it's a long story. The woman was carrying a lamp, a lit lamp, and her husband got mad at her and threw a beer mug at her, and it hit the lamp, and the fire spread all over, and she died. And the student I had called on left out the fact that she was carrying a lamp, and I kept saying, well, you know, if I throw a snowball at someone and he falls down and dies because of a freak fall, am I guilty of murder? I mean, come on. I mean, you know, you can't discuss this case without discussing the lamp. The lamp was lit, and the lamp, and the fire from the lamp is what really killed her. And and the fact that he threw a beer mug at his wife when she was carrying a lit lamp is what got the judge worked up, and he still didn't agree with me. So finally, I said, this book is probably about as heavy as a beer mug, and I threw the book at him, and it hit the glasses, which were off his, which were on his desk, and I did break the glasses, and I did pay for the glasses, but it had nothing to do, but that was the first and last time I threw a book at anybody.